Up show with Margarita, and I'm Margarita, and I'm an activator for the new Code of Power, and I create this show, Rise Up with Margarita, which is a weekly Monday 2 p.m. Eastern Time show to really help those light workers who are here to really be empowered, who are here to lead the light in the world and to lead us into the new earth to help them rise up. So welcome to our show today. And so today our topic is how to maximize the spring equinox energy as a spiritually conscious entrepreneur. So if I haven't said it yet, I know I didn't. Happy Spring Equinox. Good to see you here. And so happy Monday. You know, this is a really powerful time. The energies of the Spring Equinox is super powerful. A lot of resurrection energy. Really renewal, vibrancy, frequency, higher frequencies, opening up into, in Chinese medicine, because as you know, I'm also a Chinese medicine practitioner. I'm a licensed acupuncturist, aside from being an activator for the new Code of Power. I'm a licensed acupuncturist also, a Reiki master teacher. I'm a shamanic practitioner, a medicine woman. In fact, that's how my teacher prefers to use that term. And so I have some wisdom to drop on you today about Chinese medicine. Not only that, but really about the energy of spring, and how you can actually use that to really maximize what you're creating in the world as a spiritually conscious entrepreneur. So I'll be covering the energy of spring from a Chinese medicine perspective, also how that's related to the work you're creating in the world as a light worker, and tips on maximizing them so that they work for you. And then more tips on maximizing them, and I'll give you actually some foods that would benefit the organ that in Chinese medicine, this is the time to really nourish and, you know, express and be in the energy of. So good to see you here. Hello, Denise, Ophira, Soraya, and others here, Melanie, Jackie, people stepping in. And so super excited to see you today. And so, yeah, if you're just joining us, welcome to the Rise Up with Margarita show. And so today's topic is how to maximize the spring equinox energy as a spiritually conscious entrepreneur. So super excited to share this with you. So Chinese medicine has been around for, I think, at least over 2,000, 3,000 years. And it's been tried and true. It has been around for a super long time. Actually, it's been around longer than Western medicine. And not to say it's to replace or take over or anything like that. It's more like, you know, it's a really viable, powerful, effective medicine, right? So with Chinese medicine, it's super important to realize that it works with your organs, with the systems, with meridians. You know, we have these energy systems that run throughout our body. And so, and there's also the elements around, you know, yin, yang, you know, earth, air, fire, water, metal. In Chinese medicine, metal is one of those elements also. And so, Chinese medicine approaches spring as upward, forward vision, hope, growth. It's that type of energy. It's very yang in energy. Yang energy is very much, you know, the masculine upwards and outwards movement. It's kind of like, if you can imagine fire, that's very much like how that rises up, right? And the element, though, of the spring in Chinese medicine is wood. It's the wood energy, right? So, and then the organs that correspond in Chinese medicine to spring are the liver and the gallbladder. And this is more in the Eastern sense, okay? Just reiterating that this is from Chinese medicine, right? So it's not about the physical health of your liver or your gallbladder, although it can relate to that too. Like, I mean, it totally is all connected, right? And especially about the liver. So I'm going to talk about the liver a little bit, and how you get to work with the liver energy as a spiritually conscious entrepreneur, because there's a way to do that really effectively and to work with the flow of what's already here with us, for us, right? The sense organs that it corresponds to, meaning where it opens up into, as we say in Chinese medicine, are the eyes. And so, the health of the eyes, can be very much seen, in regards to your energy, right? Because the eyes are, how it shows up when your liver has got, is healthy, is not healthy, that kind of thing. The tissues that correspond with Chinese medicine and spring are the sinews. And so anything that you can do to nourish the sinews, like definitely drink lots of water. You should be doing that anyway. Unfluoridated water, by the way, because when you do, you're just really nourishing yourself, nourishing your physical body to assist with integration of all of these cosmic energies, because we're really receiving a lot of intense Solaris energy, sun codes, because the sun actually carries high frequency light codes, and we're streaming it in every day, especially right now. And so it's super important to make sure you get out and get some sun, right? Not only for the vitamin D and all that, but also for the sun codes. Make sure you get those sun codes. We're also getting a lot of cosmic codes as well, cosmic rays of light coming in. And in order for our bodies to really acclimate to all of these new codes and integrate all of these higher frequencies, you need to be nourishing your body in the way that your body requires the nourishment. And so that's why I'm always talking about, being really diligent about what you're allowing into your energy field, what you're letting into your life, into your body, into your mind, into your heart. It's all super relevant, super important. So yeah. Speaking of which, the emotion of spring is anger. Not to say that this is your key to just be angry and go aggro all over the place, right? That's not why it's the emotion of spring. It's more about the release, it's about the expression, and it's really about the, bumping up against what is no longer for you. Because that's really what anger is about, right? Aside from other things. But one aspect of anger is that, because it can be a helpful emotion when done correctly, is that anger is when you're pushing up against what no longer serves you, what's not okay with you, and breaking through into new growth, because that's really what all of this is about. It's about the new growth, forward, moving forward kind of thing, right? And again, it's not about allowing yourself to be angry at others and just saying, oh yeah, that's Chinese medicine, right? That's not the point of what I'm sharing with you, right? It is about where are you opening into new growth? Where are you out of alignment? Where are you not okay with things as they are? And so I'm going to share with you some information, how you can kind of work all of this so that you can activate that, awaken that within yourself in a deeper way, and then use that as a spiritually conscious entrepreneur in your spiritually conscious business. So how this is all related to the work you're creating in the world as a light worker, and then also I've got some tips for you on how to integrate this. So the liver, which is one of the spring's organs, is in charge of keeping qi smooth and running. So this is something that, in Chinese medicine, we practitioners in Chinese medicine, we say where there is bi, there is no flow. So bi is pinyin, or Chinese pronunciation for obstruction, right? So bi, no flow, yeah. So I think that bi is no flow. Actually, I'm going to just double check with this so I'm not giving you the wrong information here, because I think bi in Chinese medicine, yeah, so it's actually pain. Sorry about that, because that was because I see it so synonymously with bi, pain, and an obstruction, because they are actually very much linked. So actually bi is pinyin, or Chinese pronunciation for pain. And so there's a saying in Chinese medicine that we say, where there is bi, there is no flow. Where there is no bi, there is flow, right? And so basically the liver is in charge of the flow. The liver is in charge of your chi's flow, right? So if you are, let's say, one example of not being in that flow, you're pissed off, you're angry, you're upset, you're stressed out. Maybe there's physical pain in your body. That's like a telltale sign that you've got B, right? Like you've got that, obstruction of flow. Anywhere where you're in pain, emotionally, psychically, mentally. And hopefully you can still see me, because I just got this message on Instagram saying that there was poor connection or something like that. So just let me know in the comments that you can hear me and that all is well. And I would really appreciate that. Just let me know on Instagram anyway, because I'm also here on Facebook. And Jennifer's asking, how is it spelled? Which one? Is it B-O? I think it's the B. B-I. B-I is how you spell B in Chinese medicine. And hey there, Tanya, good to see you as well. So yeah, so that is what, okay, awesome. So I'm getting thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you. That's awesome. Good. So that said, so the liver is in charge of your free flow of chi. So wherever you're in pain, physically, mentally, emotionally, psychically, energetically, the B is there and your chi is not flowing, right? So the liver's job is to be creating that flow. I shouldn't be using that word be in that sentence, but to create that flow, right? That's the liver's job. So one of the ways to help the chi of the liver is to renew your energy physically, energetically, all of these things. Because as you know, and this is something that I speak about often, is that whenever you are not in alignment energetically, psychically, emotionally, it eventually, if not addressed, becomes a physical issue. It will literally become a physical pain in your body. Either like, all of a sudden you've got frozen shoulder, or all of a sudden you've got sciatica, or all of a sudden, something else is out of whack. And it's like super important to know that it is all connected. And I see this in my private practice all the time, where people have like some emotional dis-ease, right? Where there's some kind of, something's out of alignment, they're not in balance for whatever reason. And then, eventually if they don't address it, then it becomes this physical issue. So make sure you're energizing, renewing your energy, keeping things flowing. Some good things to do that are things like Qigong. So Qigong like literally cultivates your chi. So, all that, you see the elders, the Asian elders in Chinatown, I'm in New York City, so we got a Chinatown. And when, you see them moving very slowly and they've got those, and then they move, that's Qigong. And they do that because it cultivates your chi. It strengthens your body because it basically gives you more energy. They're harnessing their chi, right? They're harnessing and cultivating their chi. That's what Qigong is. So, and also too, if you do it quick enough, it's actually martial arts. So that's the thing about Qigong, is that, there's always like a multi-purpose with all of these amazing things. So Qigong is super important. That's something that I was taught, in school when I was an acupuncture student. And it's something that, if needed, sometimes I teach my clients as well, right? And so Qigong is one. And there, if you have, if you live in a place where they might have some Qigong practitioners, I recommend you join a class. You can also do it online. One of my Qigong teachers, his name is William Kaplanidis, Greek last name, so that's why it's super long and beautiful like that. And I didn't think I was going to drop his name today, but he's good at what he does, right? He was one of my teachers. So Kaplanidis, Kaplanidis. William is his first name. great at Qigong, has a lot of YouTube videos, and also has some classes. So Qigong, also do it locally if you got some of that going on beside you. Meditation. I can't say enough about meditation. I always talk about meditation. Everyone thinks, like, this is about being some kind of guru on top of a mountaintop and like you need to be all zenned out all the time. What do you think meditation is for? It is really to help you get present. It's about being present. And it helps cultivate your mindfulness, and it helps you get still within. And depending on how you do your meditation, you can actually rejuvenate yourself. Me, I've been doing this for so many years, and since I'm a starseed and I am connected with my star family, this is something that I actually just call it in from, my people. I call it in from my star system to, rejuvenate my physical form, my energy body, my light body, and all those forms, right? So it basically becomes, for me, it becomes like a tune-up when I go into meditation. And so that's why actually a lot of people this is related, right? I get a lot of comments about my complexion of like, oh, you've got amazing skin and all that. What's your skin regimen? It has a lot less to do about what skincare products I use. And of course, you can't use crap on your face. You want to make sure you've got like something good that works with you. But what really it's about is that, I cultivate my chi every day, every day. Courtney's asking, please repeat your teacher's name. Yeah, William is his first name. Kaplanidis is his last name. And I'll just spell that one more time. Kaplinidis, I believe. Anyway, that's super close to his actual spelling of his name. Just Google him, you'll find him. But again, if you've got someone local, do that too. So meditation, super important, because we are, and I say this a lot too, if you watch any of my reels and look at any of my posts, read my captions. Thank you, Courtney. Yes, exactly. You got it. That's how he spells it. It's super important to be really in the awareness of your consciousness, which can be done with many ways, but one of the strongest, powerful ways is through meditation, because we are in a spiritual war right now. Okay. And hopefully this is not a news flash for you. If it is, we are in a spiritual war right now, and the prize is your consciousness. And if you are easily manipulated, if you are easily taken out off center, if you are easily emotional and triggered and upset about things, and it's harder for you to stay centered, that's something that, they use against us, right? I'm just calling it for what it is. And sorry, I'm just adjusting this so that it's more aligned. And so it's super important to cultivate your consciousness. And one of the strongest, most powerful ways you can do that is through meditation. So make sure you do that. And you don't need to do it for ever and ever, in terms of when you go in it, right? Me, I prefer to at least have an hour. If I'm left to my own devices, my meditation can go 2 to 3 to 4 hours sometimes, depending on how deep I go, because I'm not just meditating only, I'm actually doing energy work in the universe, because I do that work with power, that new code of power, that God power, and I work with that. And I do work, not only on Gaia, not only with my clients, but also, in the universe. So I do a lot of work when I'm not even with my clients even. So that's something where, when I do that, I also make sure I rejuvenate and that I am replenished. And so that's something I do in meditation. You can get effective meditation within 5 minutes. You don't need a longest time like I do. So that's super important to know. Also, prioritizing what's important to you is super important when you are creating in the world and you're using that energy of spring, right? Because spring is about expansion, hope, growth. And it's important to prioritize your growth, to be committed to your growth, period. Okay? Whether it's spring or not, you should really be committed to your growth as a light worker and really stepping up into your power as one. Okay? This is super important. And that means prioritizing what's important to you. So none of this, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the energy, all those may be true. And a lot of times these can all be addressed if you prioritize what's important to you, right? So that's why prioritizing what's important to you is super, super important. And I know that some women might say, well, but I'm a mother, right? I actually got a comment on this one post that I did. I did a reel a couple of days ago on what happens to your energy field when you actually say you have no time. Okay, because you're actually merging your identity with this limited aspect where you're saying, I don't have time to my schedule, I don't have time for myself. You're actually marrying that with your energy field. And the same goes true with anything else, right? Anywhere where you are seeing yourself as limited is not the full truth, is not the reality even. So, this is super important to know. And that also means that you get to prioritize what's important. And in that reel where I talked about when we say we don't have enough time, what that actually means, I got a comment from someone who says, yes, I totally agree. I'm a mom of, I think, 1 to 3 children. I'll just say that. She's a mom, and she's like, yeah, it's really about prioritizing things, because it's like you can be a successful, spiritually conscious entrepreneur and be a mom and, be successful and do all of these things and be multidimensional and be powerful and make impact, and help people and be abundant and make money, right? So that's super important to know. So prioritizing what's important to you will help you grow, because it will help you concentrate and hone in and focus in on what's important to you. And then everything else that's not really a priority just simply falls away, or you can get to it later, right? So that's super important to do. Also, movement. Make sure you're moving, that you're, somehow, whether it's like dance or yoga or just stretching even, just allow yourself to move on a regular basis, because that will also promote the liver chi, okay? And also reassess your self-care. So this may sound simplistic, and I ain't talking about just mani-pedis, everyone, right? I'm talking about, what do you require on a physical, emotional, energetic basis in order to thrive at the highest vibration of your being, right? And so that's what I mean by self-care. Like whatever that means for you, do that. Prioritize it. Make sure that is a priority, because I'm going to tell you where we are headed as a collective. There's going to be more shit bombs falling down and revealing themselves, right? Like the collective, we are going to be getting a bunch of wake-up calls very soon. Like you think what has been happening is the wake-up call. We're just in the beginning stages, folks. So it is super important for you to get your shit together. Like in a nutshell, get your shit together, right? Because we are headed towards amazing things. And in order to experience and open into those amazing things, we will also be witnessing the falling apart of the old systems, of the old paradigm, so that we can embody and be in the new earth, right? To be in the newness means that the old framework has to fall apart. So we're actually going to be witnessing that. And, and a lot of things that you thought were true, you're going to realize were not. And if you're doing the inner work, you'll be able to shift and quickly adjust, right? And you'll be able to integrate pretty quickly. If you're not doing the inner work, if you're not clearing out your old patterns within yourself, if you're not addressing your traumas, do that now. Because if you do not, you're going to have a harder time. And I would love for you to be in your flow, so that's super important. So this is why Self-care is super important now. So for me, I prioritize getting regular massages, right? I'm every day doing energy work on myself. I also receive energy work. I have a coach, a mentor of my own. I take care of myself and my energy field. And also I'm very choosy and picky about what I allow into my energy field, right? So like from friends to colleagues to other types of energy, I'm super picky about what I allow. And it's only that which feeds me that I allow in on that deeper level. And when you are an empowered light worker, it's super important for you to do that, to be super discerning with your energy and to allow only those energies, those frequencies, and those individuals and opportunities that feed your soul and nourish you. Those are the ones that you let in. Everything else, I don't. I'm just super blunt that way, and that's why it's super important to keep your energy clear, especially for you seers, mystics, those who are channels. Your vessel needs to be sparkling clean, and that means not, hanging out in energy fields you're not supposed to be hanging out in, right? So it's super important for you to be clear. So those were some points. And also another way to assist your liver, to assist the movement of the spring energy when you're a spiritually conscious entrepreneur, is to create and streamline systems in your business for more ease and new growth. So if you already have a spiritually conscious-based business, make sure you are creating protocols in your business, right? And that means and you can start small. It could be like your cancellation policy. It could be like, what is your cancellation policy? If you don't have one, make one. Point blank, you should be having a cancellation policy, right? Because otherwise it becomes this nebulous, who knows? Maybe they'll still see me, maybe they won't, who knows, right? And so make sure it is super clear. This is also part of you being a really empowered, spiritual conscious entrepreneur, and meaning that you have a business or you're opening up your business, right? Make sure you have systems in place. And it can start with protocols like a 24-hour cancellation policy. For me, the cancellation policy for patients, it's a 24-hour cancellation policy. And if that's not honored, then, there's a fee involved, right? So that's something that it's your call, right? But you get to make that call. And so that's super important to notice, is that, when you are starting off as a spiritually conscious entrepreneur, the priority should not be on making a website, on incorporating your business. None of that is important when you are first starting out. What's important is that you get clear on what you're creating, who you're creating it for, and your offers, and then making your offers. And all of this is stuff I cover with my private clients in a deeper way. But just letting you know that when you are creating and making offers in the world, make sure you create and streamline systems in your business for more ease and growth. I'm at this point in my business now where I actually have a team, and that's where you should also be heading as well. And it's super important to make sure that you are also having that assistance. So maybe it's hiring an assistant for the first time. I have an assistant. I've got an assistant coach / sales team, right? I've got, a graphic designer, a lawyer, an accountant, I've got a team. And you get to open up into that and really create systems that work for your business and that expand your business. Because when you are a spiritually conscious entrepreneur, your job is to bring in money, right? And if you've got issues with money, and if you're getting already triggered by me talking about money, that's where you get to start. Because if you're a spiritually conscious entrepreneur, get used to talking about money and speaking about money and being in joy with money and seeing it as a useful tool and, as energy because it's neutral. It's not evil. A lot of light workers love to say that, or light workers love to say it's part of the capitalist patriarchy, which, by the way, capitalist patriarchy is falling apart. So, that doesn't really hold water anymore. So the reality is that if you've still got money stories, money issues, you hate money or anything like that, clear that shit. Okay? Address that. Get to the root and the bottom of that and heal that, because that will block you from receiving money. So yeah, streamlining and creating systems in your business, and then also receive support from a mentor who's been where you want to be so you can accelerate your journey and make your impact in a more streamlined way. So a lot of people are like, I can do it myself. These are the lone wolfing light workers, right? And I get it, because I used to be a lone wolf too. And with that, I was able to, even get my 6 figures, but that took a while. Okay, that took a while because I was just like figuring things out along the way, Googling things and all this other stuff, right? But what really accelerated me more quickly was actually having my own coach and mentor. And that is why I am also a coach and a mentor to those empowered light workers who are spiritually conscious entrepreneurs and who are ready for that next step. They're connected with their purpose, they're connected with their heart, they're ready to step into their power. And so I do that a lot with, power activation on the DNA level. I don't do single sessions because this is deep work. And it really is for those who have already done that inner work. If you're easily spun out, if you're still in a highly triggered trauma state, this work is not for you, right? But so make sure that whether it's me or someone else that you resonate with, that you get a mentor who is where you want to be, right? Because I'll tell you this story. When I was first looking for a coach, like many years ago, it feels like now, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I put kind of like this call out, and so a bunch of my friends were responding, and one of them was a friend of mine, and he's like, well, I'm a coach, but the thing is that in all of his posts, he would complain about how broke he is, how he had no home, how he was feeling basically victimized by the world, and because that was where he was at the time. And he's like, I'll be your coach, right? And he was coming from the place of probably wanting to help, probably has some wisdom, but for me, I did not choose that person as my coach because he's not where I want to be, right? Like I wanted to get to a place where I was more accelerated, where I was making more money, where I was helping more people, where I had better structures in place. So it's super important. And I love what Tagata is saying. Mentor is like a shortcut, an amazing source of wisdom. Absolutely. That's what it is. And so when I finally did invest in a coach, in a mentor, it was like, shoop, so all these things of like, what is this? How do I do that? And all this other stuff. I just cut through the crap and, just bypassed all of that, and faster results, and then faster impact, faster happiness, right? So that's super important. So another aspect of the spring energy, as I said at the beginning of this broadcast, the energy in Chinese medicine of spring, of the liver, which is the organ of spring, the sense organ of spring is the eyes. So it's more like opening your eyes. It's like the eyes are kind of like that expression of the liver, right? So if you see people with a lot of red eyes, like bloodshot, meaning, and it's not caused from trauma, like physical trauma, then there's probably some liver obstruction going on, right? And not in a physical sense again, but it's really about, that person is stressed. That person is stressed. There's some blockage energetically, probably mentally or psychically or physically or all of that, or a mixture, right? So when it comes to the eyes, it's also symbolic to this is the time where you get to open your eyes to what we're currently experiencing as a collective. Like it's no longer okay to say, oh, well, I was asleep or I didn't know, right? And there's no judgment here because we all have our cycles, our awakening stories and everything. And if you found me, chances are is that you are awakened on some level, and if you're awakened, you're also, opening up into your spiritual path. And some are more advanced than others, some are just in the beginning stages, but honestly, we really have no excuse anymore to be asleep about it, because basically at this point, if you're still asleep, you're choosing to be asleep. And so make sure you're opening your eyes to what's really going on in the world. And what I mean by that is not believing false narratives that are being promoted and deployed, I'll say, because they are weapons that are being deployed into the global stage. Make sure you're seeing what's really going on, because a lot of what people on mainstream news are telling you is actually, they're not true, right? So make sure you are getting to the truth, getting to the bottom of the truth, and make sure you are embodying your truth and also speaking your truth, because that's what empowered Lightworkers do. And make sure that you question anything that denies your hope, keeps you in fear, and constricts you and feels constrictive from the possibility of living your life on your terms, because you absolutely have the power to live life on your terms. Like, I have no doubt that you absolutely have the power to live life on your terms. And what it really comes down to is, do you believe that for yourself? So that's super important to know. So this is that aspect of opening your eyes, seeing what is possible for you, allowing yourself to see what's possible for you. Babe, did you want to say hi before you leave?
Oh.
This is my twin flame beloved, Stacy.
Oh. How you doing?
Yeah, so there he is. Okay, babe.
All right.
So make sure that you are in line with the energy of spring. And from this Chinese medicine perspectives, it's really about that expansion, growth, opening, hope, and forward vision, right? So I shared some stories about really opening into the renewal of the energy, streamlining energy, opening up into more ease and new growth, receiving support so you get shortcuts, and then how you get to, really nourish what you are seeing, and what you're opening up into. Also, make sure that with this energy of the spring, you are checking in with your emotions. Check in with yourself on a regular basis. Dani is saying our birthright is freedom. 110%. 110%. Freedom is your birthright. Freedom is your birthright. And anything that suppresses your freedom, question it. Question it. Like, I don't even know the ins and outs of your life, but I can say that you get to be in full freedom of how you want to live your life and how you want to do so on your terms. You're completely capable of doing that, and it is your birthright. So mentioning checking in with your emotions, reassess and strengthen your healthy energy boundaries and how you feel when they are not honored. So one of the fastest ways to being an empowered empath, right? Because a lot of light workers are empaths. Empaths meaning people who pick up on other people's energies. And if their boundaries are not very healthy, they might actually take on other people's energies and issues, if you know what I mean, as their own. And so when you have healthy energy boundaries, you are very aware about what is your energy, what belongs to you, and what belongs to other people. And you're cultivating that on a regular basis. So make sure that, and part of that, sometimes you learn by having your boundaries crossed, basically, that's kind of like the way we learn sometimes, is that, when they're crossed, then you say, okay, that was one of my boundaries that I was not okay with this person crossing, right? So that's super, super important. Make sure you are honoring your own boundaries, okay? Because when you're an empowered empath, that's super, super important to, honor. Because if you expect other people to honor your boundaries, but you don't honor your own boundaries, don't expect other people to honor yours. That's how it works, right? So you first must honor your own energy boundaries, your own energy field, and you must respect yourself. You must respect your energy and respect cultivating it and loving yourself enough, right? So this is really all about that depth of, self-integrity, compassion, and presence. And that's super important, because if you are not connected with that, then you are informing people otherwise, right? And then boundaries get crossed because you likely aren't honoring your own. So make sure you are checking in with your emotions, strengthening and creating healthy energy boundaries, and also clear your energy of any remaining trauma programs, elevate your frequency on a regular basis. All energy work can assist you with this. And I do want to also add to that power activation work that I do, it's really accelerated. It's super, super quick. So yeah, there's so many ways to address clearing out anything that's still lingering, right? So make sure you've done that work where you're clearing your traumas and detaching yourself from your attachment to trauma, because a lot of light workers are really, attached to drama, and you simply cannot be an empowered light worker and be super attached to your trauma. It's either one or the other, right? So make sure you do that work and assess where in yourself and your life you're experiencing resistances, and explore the wisdom it's telling you, first of all, right? Explore and get curious about your resistance. Oh, so that's there. Why is that there, right? And then make conscious decisions to create shifts in your life that create more flow. So basically make a decision about what you want to be experiencing, right? That's what a powerful creator in this world does, is that they become aware of what they're creating. And if they are not satisfied with something that they're creating, because everything in your life right now is a reflection of what you've created, point blank, it's true, right? So if there's something in your stratosphere that you are no longer okay with, you have the power to make a different choice. Choose something else, right? Super important. So let me know, is this landing with you? Is this supporting you? Are you learning something from today's live? Because it's super important for me that you get this information, because we are really in a pivotal time right now. And it's super important to understand and get to really embody our power, and really, and to step up with that power. So let me know in the comments, are you feeling this? Does this resonate for you? You can, thank you for the hearts. I appreciate that. You can give me some hearts. You can give me a thumbs up emoticon. You can say yes, or as Aurora Beauty just did, she did both. So thank you so much, and confirming that. And, feel free to also start asking some questions about how to maximize the spring equinox energy as a spiritually conscious entrepreneur. So let me know. Okay, thank you for the confirmation, folks. I am seeing a question, how do I get over the fear of putting up those boundaries? So usually the fear, and that's a great question, because I actually get that a lot. So this is a great question that will serve a lot of people. So thank you, Jocelyn. So the fear is coming in because you're afraid to hurt other people's feelings, right? Because you're afraid to hurt other people's feelings, because you can pick up on their disappointment, right? And their anger or their upset, right? That's why you have the fear, because you don't want to feel other people's disappointment or their anger or the rage, or, whatever you're afraid they're going to do once you put up healthy energy boundaries. So two things for you. One is the only people who will be upset about you putting up boundaries that are healthy are the people who are used to taking advantage of your energy and siphoning your energy. Literally, it's a siphoning of energy. And if you're okay with that, then you can continue allowing them to have that type of access to you, right? If you're not okay with that, then you get to put up some healthy energy boundaries. And the only people who will get upset about that are the people who have been taking advantage of them. You know? Number two, get okay with other people's disappointment. Get okay with it. Like, I know that sounds like, what? How do you do that? You just get okay with it, right? Like, you know, like you just tap in and like, you know, if like, as an example, if you're in that moment and you're about to put up some healthy energy boundaries, you're suspecting they're going to be disappointed or angry or upset with you as a result, then get okay in your heart with that possibility. So that can look like, however the reaction, I'm okay with, right? And the important thing there to help you get okay with it is to not take it on, right? Just because you feel other people's feelings does not mean it is your responsibility to you know, micromanage it or to take care of it, right? You're not responsible for other people's emotions, ever, okay? Never, ever, ever. It is not your job to take care of other people's disappointments. It is not your job to take care of other people's anger or rage, okay? Not your job. Your job is to radiate light and to be the light and to impact the world, right? That's what all light workers are here to do. They're all here to provide healing on some level, right? And you can't do that if you're micromanaging and trying to overtake someone else's journey. Because also here's the thing about that. If you are trying to help somebody in that way where you're like taking over, you are actually robbing them of their sovereignty, right? You're actually, if you're trying to do their work for them, you're robbing them of their sovereignty, and also nothing gets fixed because things get addressed and healed when we as individuals personally do that work for ourselves and choose to, right? Like you can't force help on someone who's not ready for it. So I hope that helped you, Jocelyn. I think there's another question here. Okay, so Ashley's saying, how do I push for my creativity? I am pushing into a new season and it feels like a dark awakening. I cannot seem to find the talents and skills. First of all, I would check yourself on using the word push, right? Because the word push is all about like, oh, I gotta push up against this thing. I gotta force this thing to happen. That is not the energy of the new earth, right? Not pushing. It's allowing and opening into. So what I would recommend is get curious, first of all, Ashley, on why you are seeing this as hard, right? Why is it hard for you to access in your perception? Why is it hard for you to access your skills, right? And if you're in the middle of an awakening, then that could also be part of it too, in which case allow yourself to be in the awakening of it rather than frustrated with yourself, right? So compassion, self-compassion is super helpful, especially in the beginning of the awakening path. So make sure you are doing that. Excuse me. So I hope that helped. And if you have any other questions, let me know. I'll take maybe one or two additional ones. And as you are putting it in here, I am also going to share with you, here are some foods that will actually support the liver energy. And so some of the foods that actually help the liver chi flow in the body and movement they are lemons, radishes, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, cumin, extra virgin olive oil, garlic, pickles, plums. I especially like the plums. That's super powerful, super popular too in Chinatown at this time of year. Lots of plums. And especially the ones that make your cheeks pucker. Like those are the good ones, right? Sour cherries, vinegar, sourdough rye bread, beets, carrots, apple, mustard greens, tomato, all green foods, mung beans, and mint tea. So these are just some of the foods that are super helpful to opening up the liver qi flow from a Chinese medicine perspective. So, try out one or two of those items, add it into your diet, and see how you feel, and, as you can tell from like what I've listed, the taste is sour, right? The taste of spring in Chinese medicine is sour. So those sour foods will actually assist in the opening and the energy of the liver qi. So I hope that is helpful for you. And again, this is really about maximizing the spring equinox energy. So I'm not going to be answering general questions about wellness or healing and that kind of stuff right now. But if there are any other questions, let me know in the comments. And someone is mentioning chronic dry eyes. So, that could be a liver thing. That could definitely be a liver thing. And sometimes people also have it. It also depends on your environment, right? Because if you live in a dry environment, then you might need to use those kind of eye drops too. That's super important. Okay, so wrapping up on today's live. Okay, so today was about how to maximize the spring equinox energy as a spiritually conscious entrepreneur. I covered what the energy of spring is from a Chinese medicine perspective, how that's related to the work you're creating in the world as a light worker, and tips on maximizing them so that it works for you and your spiritually conscious based business. And also, I gave you a little bonus on some helpful foods for keeping the liver qi moving and smooth. So that said, if you are a light worker who is already connected to your purpose, connected to your heart, and you are a spiritually conscious entrepreneur, you have a spiritually conscious based business, or you're interested in opening up into that and you're really committed, and you're, you've done that inner work, and you're ready to rise up and really apply yourself and get excited about your journey, then deeper work with me is something that I would invite you to. And the deeper work that I do power activation work that activates you on the DNA level. It's super powerful. And as such, it's only for those who are, who've already done that inner work, who are ready to receive, who are ready to step up and commit to their greater purpose. And so I do that through the power activation work. Again, I don't do single sessions because this work is super deep and powerful. And I also do long-term coaching and mentoring. And so if that's something that you are ready for and you'd like to learn more about, then DM me what your powerful light worker purpose is, because I'd love to learn and know. And we can talk about it and talk about, next steps and, how I can support you in your powerful path. So this recording will be available on both Facebook and on Instagram. So it will be available in just a moment. But in the meantime, my challenge to you is make sure that you are opening your eyes. One of two things, right? You can either open your eyes to the truth of what we are experiencing as a collective, or really open up that liver qi and help it flow by either eating one of these helpful liver qi foods, or implementing one of the suggestions I talked about today. So, super important. And with that, I send you off. Much love, light, and power. See you next week.